Hi, I'm Lisa.
Hi, I'm Anissa.
I'm Andre.
Once upon a time, in schools throughout Australia,
They were budding young novelists and storytellers.
But after watching our video, no longer were they shy.
to become professional writers in their own right.
Welcome to Creative Kids, Creative Writing. This episode is all about getting you ready to begin your career as a professional writer. It is full of invaluable information and advice from the industry's best.
How cool would it be to get published much earlier than you thought possible? Learn about how easy it can be to write.
Learn what you can do to help create an audience for your writing. Find out who is out there to help young writers.
And here's some really cool stories from award-winning authors such as Margaret Clark and Graeme Base. So, with no further ado, let's get to it.
You can pretty much write anywhere you want with a pen, a piece of paper, or a computer.
Or a typewriter.
That's a little 20th century, Lisa.
Oh. Well, poetry, real life, fiction, non-fiction, you can write in any format that you want and also about anything you want because you are the storyteller. You are the one and only master of your character's journey, and from the tap of your computer, you will hold the hearts and minds of your readers.
I can see why writing is such a powerful art form. You have the power to take your readers into another world by immersing them in the journey, thoughts, and experience of a character.
That's right. It's your job to keep them intrigued from the very first page to the last page of your book. Feed their hearts, their minds, and their souls. It does sound a little bit corny, I guess, but as any book reader will tell you, that is all they are looking for in a good book.
But is it so easy to fulfill the expectations of a reader?
Possibly. Let's find out.
Cool fact, J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter, which has sold more than 400 million copies. And now there's a Harry Potter theme park in London and Florida.
C.S. Lewis wrote the books of Narnia. They've sold more than 100 million copies and have been translated to 47 languages. I still have my Aslan toy.
Enid Blyton wrote Noddy, The Famous Five, and The Faraway Tree. In fact, she wrote more than 600 books, which have sold more than 600 million copies. And many of her books have been turned into TV shows.
Roald Dahl, who wrote The Big Friendly Giant, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and Matilda, has sold over 100 million books and has been published in almost 50 languages. And I just love the movies.
So, you know what this means, right?
If you're a good writer, you could sell millions of books and be famous.
Yes, and your book might be translated into many different languages.
And your stories could be Hollywood blockbuster movies, TV shows, games, and even theme parks. Your characters could be turned into toys and be on t-shirts. Awesome!
I need help. I want to write an amazing book, but I don't know where to start.
Well, every story starts with an idea. First, you need an idea. What about the sea?
The sea.
The sea has inspired many stories of Neptune, underwater creatures, mermaids, pirates and their treasures.
Nemo! He got lost and his dad had to travel halfway around the world to find him.
That's right. And why not turn to plants and trees for inspiration? What fairies and magical creatures hide amongst the flowers?
I was travelling in through central Australia, and you saw these huge big road trains hammering down the highway towards us, and they really felt like animals. They felt scary. These huge big headlights and grills, and I thought, wow, it's like some huge, sort of killer dog or something. I just came up with this idea of truck dogs. So I created the concept. Then I started making a picture book, because that's what I do. And I wrote a text in verse, because I love writing in rhyming verse. I actually find it easier than writing prose. And I did a complete story in text, and I did all of the artwork, created a picture book ready to go, and then I showed it to my Australian publishers, Penguin, and they were very happy. But I also have a publisher in America, in New York, and they were really scared by this book because they thought that the characters were a bit freaky
Yeah.
And that the audience for a picture book, young kids would be a bit scared of the characters. And so they said, no, we don't like this. I opened the laptop and I wrote down Truck Dogs, the movie. And I started writing a screenplay based on the same idea. I then took that screenplay, said to my publishers, I think I can write this as a novel. So I just took the screenplay, kind of worked it, to just, as a novel text, and it became my first ever, reader book.
There are stories everywhere. People, places, and things that have happened. You just have to look.
Yes, once you realise this, you'll see the world with brand new eyes. And you'll be coming up with characters and writing stories everywhere you go.
How do I know if my idea is big enough to write a whole story?
Start writing. You'll soon find out.
I was going really well, but now I'm on my second chapter and it seems to be getting a little boring. What should I do?
If you start getting bored yourself, your reader is going to be bored. You just make something happen to the character. It's easy. Grandma can be coming, which means you've got to get out of your bedroom. Grandma's coming. She's got smelly breath. She's the worst grandma in the world. She's going to follow you around. You get an invitation to a party, which could be fabulous if you want to go to the party. Or your moving house. Moving house is a huge one.
It worked. Now I'm making something happen on every page. This is so fun and so easy.
That's right. If you enjoy writing your story, your readers are definitely going to enjoy reading it.
Each sentence has got a bunch of words and then a bunch of sentences together as a paragraph about the same thing, and you have a bunch of paragraphs and then they make a chapter, and usually the chapters are about a particular incident or introducing a new person or introducing a new situation, and then you get to a bit of a little peak, crescendo, climax, whatever you want to call it, so that the person then wants to turn the page and keep reading for the next chapter.
To get started, who are you writing for? Kids, teenagers, adults, or maybe even a special interest group?
Writing for children and teenagers is not easy. I reckon it's easier writing for adults. Children and teenagers are very critical, and you can't fool them, and they don't like exaggeration or great flowery sort of passages and words. They just want, mainly they want action, and they want to be able to turn the page and know what's going on and have a really good story, and I enjoyed doing that.
A really cool thing about writing that you may not realise is the researching part. So even if you're writing, say, a fiction story, which is a completely made-up book, you still may have to go and do a little research.
For example, if you don't know about the place in which a story is being set, you should do a little research to help with the descriptive details.
But non-fiction, on the other hand, means that everything is truthful and real, so it is best to do as much research as possible to make sure that all your details are correct.
But we don't want you to think that non-fiction is boring, because if you love a subject a lot, it'll be so much fun to go and research it. Collaborating with other artists is a really fun way to get a project made. For example, you might be a great writer, but I might be a good photographer, so I could do the cover art and the illustrations for your book.
And collaborating with other writers can be a lot of fun, because you could come up with the main character, and your friend could come up with some crazy character you would have never thought of.
Drafting, and editing. The good thing about writing is that, just like actors rehearse before the final performance, you too can redraft and edit your story before the book is printed.
Most of us at home have Microsoft Office Word. A few tips are, try using the focus view so you're not distracted by anything else on the screen.
And switch off your internet and social media.
All computers have spell checker now, so you don't even have to be the world's best speller.
Just write. Worry about editing later. In fact, if you worry too much about editing as you go along, it actually makes the task of writing harder.
You can't expect to do a piece of work where you start, at the beginning of the lesson and go through to the end and that's it, it's finished. Of course it's not. That would be your first draft. And the most important thing, and this is not just kids, who have to edit their work. Everyone does. Adults, I do all the time. Right through the whole process of my writing, I'll keep coming back to the story and go, is that the right word for that? Is there another way I could say that? Could I condense it a little bit? Do I need to expand it a little bit? And you just keep on just like fine-tuning it until you're really, really happy with it. And that editing process is what makes a good story great. And it only finishes when it's time to hand it in or give it to the publisher or whatever it is. So take your time, but most importantly, make sure it's about something that you actually feel something about. And that's what will first of all, give it some kernel of truth or interest for other people.
And how about joining a writers group or create one of your own with like-minded friends who also enjoy writing? You can give each other positive and constructive feedback.
Hey, would you be able to check my work and I'll check yours?
Yeah, sure.
Getting feedback will help you write better drafts until you have a readable and interesting story.
Just trust that you are doing a good job and enjoying the process.
In Australia, we learn English in our schools, which is the basis of our writing skills and actually our whole education.
Once you have finished school, universities offer many literacy degrees, if you choose that pathway.
Because interestingly, many authors are experts in other fields as well. For example, you might grow up to be a zookeeper and write books about African animals.
Literacy festivals offer many talks by authors and writing workshops you can attend. Check out websites like Express Media to see when they're coming to your town.
Becoming aware of organizations and community groups which benefit young writers can help you meet like-minded creative people and point you in the direction of grants, scholarships, and mentorships, maybe awards, competitions, and writers' festivals. Today, we are here at the Wheeler Centre, one of Australia's writing hubs.
Writers need to get themselves out there. Writing is no longer just sitting away in some little room somewhere and typing away. You need to get yourself out there, and one of the ways to do that is to connect with other writers. That's something the Emerging Writers Festival does really well. We're a festival for writers, so we create a space where writers can come along and connect with each other. Express Media does a really great job of connecting younger writers together. You've got a suite of programs where people can come along and participate.
In terms of what we offer young writers, apart from certain projects, there's publications for writers under 25, such as VoiceWorks, which is our quarterly literary journal. And that's a great space for young writers to get involved, and illustrators as well, because people that don't necessarily get published always get feedback.
Don't be shy to get your work out there. An on-trend way to do this is by setting up a blog site with links to information about your work.
Yeah, there's a huge online community, so it's a great place to start building a fan base.
Building a fan base is a great way to get people to read your work and get them excited for your future work.
Have fun with writing and putting stuff out yourself, kind of thing. I think when you're young, there's no pressure to, do anything big. Get a zine together, put a zine together with a few friends and get your writing out in interesting ways. A good friend of both Express Media and the Emerging Writers Festival is working on a project at the moment, which is a literary magazine. He's only going to print 3 copies, and that's it. But he's doing a bit of a project where he wants to see how far those copies are going to go and how they get shared around readers. So, have fun.
Blogging is a great way to get started. Also, try and link your work to social media. Tweet, Instagram, and blog away.
And find ways to contribute to local publications such as maybe school newsletters, local magazines, and local newspapers.
There are quite a few interesting ways to start writing. If you haven't heard of them, zines are these little books that you write, design, and make yourself. Why not get a group of writers sharing zines around your school? Or maybe make an ebook which is only published online.
That's a really cool idea.
Publish in VoiceWorks, definitely. If you're under 25, it's really important. Publishers do have a look at the literary magazines around Australia and keep their eye on them for new talent. And it's, and it's a really open, easy place to get published compared to just getting the first book out there in the world. And keep experimenting in those places. And people will take notice. Come to writers' festivals, appear at writers' festivals, particularly the Emerging Writers' Festival and definitely the National Young Writers' Festival in Newcastle as well. Both of those are for younger writers, and there's space where you can get up on stage without having had anything published. So, yeah, lots of opportunities.
There are a few different ways to get published. Self-publishing is the easiest way to get started. More and more authors are choosing to use this method, so please don't be nervous to go it alone when you first start. Just getting your writing out there into the world can open up so many doors for the future. There are websites like Lulu and Amazon where you can upload your writing and readers can take a look at it. If lots of readers like your book and it becomes popular, a publisher may even offer you a book deal.
Self-publishing's been a really dirty word for a long time. Like, people haven't, it's had a bit of a stigma attached to it.
Yeah.
But I think that's really changing with the digital kind of era that's coming in, and ebooks definitely. Like, it's much easier now to self-publish. People can find really interesting ways to do it, create kind of online campaigns and those kind of things. Got a couple of friends who've put out ebooks which are really as good a quality as sort of, normal stuff, and they work really hard on editing and getting the writing up to scratch before they sort of put it out there. But once it's out there, then it's up to you to sort of promote yourself and get yourself out there and make sure that it doesn't get lost in all the digital traffic going everywhere. Don't send a fiction manuscript to a publisher who only publish non-fiction. They're not going to read it, and they're not going to necessarily jump on it. I think it's knowing who you're sending it to, and as much kind of sort of contact that you can get with that person, so you can kind of figure out where they are before sending your writing sort of blind, I think is pretty key.
An ebook is the easiest way to get your work out there. There are lots of online printers and distributors for you to use.
And always have an adult help with this process to understand and agree to all the legal stuff.
Yeah.
Also, always read the fine print.
How do I get a book deal? Lisa, this is the number one question on all our lips.
I know, even I want to know the answer to this question, so I thought it was probably best to leave this one up to the professionals.
So how do you choose books? What do you look for when you publish a book?
It's a difficult question that people always ask, because I think as a publisher, you're looking for something that you've never seen before. You're looking for something that is so amazing and fresh and different that you might not even know what it is until you see it. So that's really tough. But certainly what I'm looking for is something that is going to take me somewhere else, give me a sense of what it's like to be someone else, to experience life through someone else's eyes. So I kind of want to put on a pair of goggles and imagine what it might be like to be a 7-year-old kid who's found out he's got superpowers, or a 15-year-old kid who's woken up and the apocalypse has hit, or whatever it might be. So I'm just looking for something that's going to take me somewhere else.
Quite often, publishers accept unsolicited materials, which means that you won't actually need an agent to submit them your book. You can do it yourself. To find out what kinds of books publishers are accepting and when, check on their websites.
Also, research some different publishers, because, you don't want to be sending your kid's book to a publisher who only publishes adult crime novels.
At Penguin, we accept what we call unsolicited manuscripts. So that means if you've written a story and you send it in to us, we'll read it. And so another way we find new authors is from them sending us their material. We get about 3,000 manuscripts a year sent to us that way. And of those 3,000, we might publish 3.
Wow.
So it's not a great ratio, but having said that, a lot of Australia's really great writers have been found in that way. Usually it takes many years to get published. So if you do send something in and you get a letter from the publisher saying, no, we don't want to publish it, or you don't hear back from the publisher, you shouldn't be completely disheartened by that. A lot of writers wrote for many years before they got published. Most people, in fact, write for many years before they get published. And so just because a publishing company has decided against publishing your work doesn't mean that you're a bad writer or that you should stop.
Look, I think all kids have great imaginations because everyone experiences life really intensely. So I always say that if kids are interested in becoming writers, the first thing is just to write a lot. And I know that sounds really obvious, but a lot of people don't think about the fact that they have to practice. It's like if you want to be a sprinter, you're going to do a lot of training. If you want to be a concert pianist, you're going to practice a lot. It's absolutely the same with writing. It's a craft like any other. So just write and write and write. And sometimes you won't feel like it, and sometimes it will be rubbish. But it's really good practice just to keep writing. So that's definitely my first tip, is just to get some practice. My second tip is to spend a lot of time reading, because you need to know what everybody else has written and how your book is going to be judged, because you're going to be publishing, in theory, a book that's going to be compared to other things that have been published. So you want to get ideas, you want to get inspiration, you want to read books that you like and books that you dislike and books you find scary and books that you hate, so that you can try and think about why you find it scary and why you loved it or why you hated it. If it was really boring to you, try and think about why it was really boring and how you can make sure you never do that. And you can establish what sort of a book it is that you want to write. So I really encourage kids to read broadly, like read books for girls, read books for older kids, younger kids, just, all sorts of stuff, because that'll be really important to develop your skills. And the other thing I would say is don't assume that the first idea you have is your best, because usually the first thing that comes to mind is the most obvious, and it might be something that you've seen before or you've read before or that someone else could come up with. So when you're trying to think about the sorts of things you want to write and what's going to happen to the character that you've created, maybe make a list of 10 things that could happen, because the first one may well not be your best idea. And also know that a lot of what you write will be rubbish. It's the same for adults. And be open to that, and be open to cutting things out, starting again, trying again. Just keep pushing yourself.
What will shine through in your story if you're pitching something by actually speaking to someone about it, or if you're writing a letter, sending in your manuscript, it's really important that you are yourself. You're not trying to be anybody else. You're telling your story in the most honest way possible. And also, I think, to get something across about what excites you about the ideas you're writing about. What is it that in your story that's different from anybody else's? And to sort of show that you've put your heart into it. And I think you can really see that with good writing as well. Write about something that you feel strongly about, that means something to you, because if you're writing about something you're interested in, that will come across in the writing.
There's a famous quote from Mark Twain, who's quoted as some journalist, I think, said to him, "Oh, you're a very lucky man, Mr. Twain." And he said, "Yeah, it's a funny thing. The harder I work, the luckier I get." And I thought, yeah, that's it, isn't it? You make your own luck. You work hard, and things happen. Things work out. What would I say to myself? I'd say believe that you can do it. Don't let anyone sort of tell you get a proper job. Okay. I think in life you only regret the things that you don't do. You don't regret the things you do have a crack at. Even if it doesn't work out, you had a go. And that's important.
Now, biggest tip is please just get your work out there so that people can read it.
Just keep trying.
Believe in yourself and enjoy the process of discovering what kind of writer you want to be.
For useful links and information, head to the Kids Corner of the Far Out Films website.
Bye!